Lately, I've been getting a lot of questions about three main things. What is an unrecognized Mason? What is a clandestine Mason? And what is an irregular Mason? It's no simple answer, so let me see if I can't tackle this. A clandestine Mason is a plain and simple bogus Mason. A lot of times they don't know it, and there are many good people who become Masons in a clandestine lodge. A lodge is just kind of a made-up lodge. Somebody decided, hey, we're all of a sudden Masons, and maybe they log into Amazon or they go buy rings and they start to tell other people that they're Masons. They're not Masons. They don't understand Masonry, and even if they get a book and start to try and teach themselves Masonry, they're not Masons because they didn't come up through the normal process where you are recognized. So a lodge has to have lineage that traces back to one of the original four lodges. And those four lodges are the Grand Lodge of Ireland, the Grand Lodge of Scotland, and the English Ancients or the English Moderns. Now, interestingly enough, those last two combined to call themselves now the United Grand Lodge of England. So, for instance, my Grand Lodge can trace its lineage from Wisconsin, where I am now, to Illinois, and they received their charter from another state, and that state ended up receiving their charter from actually one of two places. If you're here in southeastern Wisconsin, you trace your lineage all the way to the Grand Lodge of Scotland, and if you are from the western portion of the state, they actually trace their lodge through down to Missouri, and then they can trace their lineage of approval effectively to the English Moderns. But if a clandestine Mason would say, oh, well, we're Masons because we have a Grand Lodge of something or other, but if they don't actually have a connection, they're not really Masons. The tough thing here is that these guys who are bogus Masons or clandestine Masons will oftentimes sell themselves as real Masons, and they're expensive. They might have monthly dues. My dues in my lodge it's only like $100 a year. Some lodges I've heard up to $200 or $300 a year. It's really not that much when you break it down to a monthly basis. But if you go into these clandestine lodges, they are, you walk in with $20, you walk out with nothing. You walk in with $100, you'll walk out with nothing. They're kind of trained to shake you down. And many good people who think that they're becoming Masons kind of got caught up in the clandestine kind of Ponzi schemes. So be careful about that. I happen to be a member of the Grand Lodge of Wisconsin. If many people, they are members of the Grand Lodge of whatever state they live in. And of course, different countries have their own Grand Lodges. Prince Hall Masons also are usually associated with states, but there's a few exceptions. And PHA is real Masons. PHO, not real Masons, but that's another story altogether. The other thing is irregular. Okay, irregular has more to do with while they say that they're Masons, and they may even have some connection to Masonic groups, they are not. Irregular Masonry is usually like female Masonry or co-Masonry. It has, and if you say, are they Masons? Yeah, they're Masons, but I don't go out and have a discussion with them. It's not about Masonry. It's just not something that in my or most legitimate American lodges could have that sort of discussion. It's just because women are not to be initiated or passed or raised into a regular lodge. So most of the irregular Masons that you would hear about would be either in some areas of the Caribbean, or they also have irregular Masons in England. Now, are they bad people? No. In fact, they do some great jobs, some great work, and I can go out and have a nice discussion with an irregular Mason about what did you guys do to raise money for your charity, and who did you help out, and that sort of thing. But we're not going to sit down and have a discussion about some of the deeper Masonic principles. And finally, unrecognized. Now, unrecognized is something that a lot of people don't really understand, because just because a lodge is unrecognized by my Grand Lodge doesn't mean I can't have a nice chat with them, but I'm still not going to have usually deep Masonic discussions with them. They are, in fact, an unrecognized Mason can, in fact, be a legit Mason. It's just that in the process, they're not recognized by, for instance, my jurisdiction. I'm going to give you an example. There is former President Biden was recently made a Mason by the Prince Hall Grand Lodge of South Carolina. Now, that Grand Lodge is not recognized by my Grand Lodge, and it's not recognized by many Grand Lodges, but it is a legit Grand Lodge, and in fact, it is recognized by the Grand Lodge of New Mexico, for instance, and some other places. Now, does that mean that it's not legit? No, it doesn't mean that it's not legit. Does it mean that Brother Biden is not Brother Biden? No, he is in fact Brother Biden. But because it's unrecognized, we're probably not going to sit down and have a long chat about Masonic principles. Now, there can be other lodges that are unrecognized, but they're in the process of being recognized. I happen to know, for instance, the Grand Lodge of Ghana in Africa is recognized by the Grand Lodge of Scotland. And I know this because I specifically asked the current Grand Master of Scotland if they were recognized, and he said absolutely the Grand Lodge of Ghana is recognized, but they're not recognized by my Grand Lodge, and therefore a Mason from the Grand Lodge of Scotland could have Masonic discourse or Masonic discussions with guys from the Grand Lodge of Ghana, and it's all well and good, but in the process, right now at least, my Grand Lodge doesn't recognize the Grand Lodge of Ghana, so I'm not going to have discussions with, or for that matter, even call the good men who might be a member of the Grand Lodge of Ghana. I'm not going to call them brother. It's just not what I'm going to do. But it's not, and there's a reason for this. The reason for it is, there's many countries, hundreds of countries throughout the world. It's not my job, not my responsibility to go out and figure out whether all of these different Grand Lodges or lodges throughout the world are following Masonic protocols. But we do have access, I have access to an app called Amnesty, and that checks for me if my Grand Lodge has amnesty with, or recognition effectively, with another Grand Lodge. So if I'm going to, for instance, a lodge, if I happen to be going to Thailand, as I recently did, I can find out, oh, there's a Grand Lodge there, or there's some lodges there, they're an amnesty. Anyway, now you got a good understanding. Check out the Lost Ones podcast. He does a great job. And go out, do some good.